What if I told you there was once a wildly successful television show that the NFL hated so much they actually got it canceled? And why would they want to do that? In today's world, we are inundated with football content. Sunday Ticket, Red Zone, 3 different versions of Hard Knocks, wall-to-wall programming on ESPN and NFL Network, and then losers like me. But all those windows into football are about as squeaky clean as they come. Well, not me, I'm pretty fucking dirty. Sure, there's some swearing on Hard Knocks and some big hits on Sunday, but they're the NFL, as presented to us by the NFL. That wasn't always the case. Once upon a time, ESPN had some ambition, some creativity, some willingness to push the envelope. ESPN used to air low-level wrestling and aerobics during the day, just killing time till they could jump back to the 4 major sports in the evening. ESPN knew they were competing with 200+ channels on cable, so they started experimenting. Some of their gambles failed, like more sports. Other shots in the dark, like Pardon the Interruption, were major hits that unfortunately changed the way we digest sports talk to this day. However, in the early to mid-2000s, the 4-letter wanted to dip their toes into not just original programming, but scripted television. Television had changed in the early 2000s. Shows like Oz and The Sopranos proved that not every series had to have a perfectly lovable cast, a mom that was dead, or have every plot line tied up in a neat bow where everyone learned a lesson and Carlton got to do a cute little dance at the end. A show on ESPN would have to hold back a little more than home box office, but even basic cable was letting a little more slide on their airwaves. Enter Playmakers, a series that was going to show the on and off the field life of the Cougars, a fictional team from an unnamed city, unaffiliated with ESPN's major partner, the National Football League. What could go wrong? The very first episode starts not on a football field, but overlooking a hospital bed. The Cougars starting linebacker is reckoning with the fact that he paralyzed an opponent just a week earlier. It's not exactly a sunshine and rainbows thesis on the nature of football as a sport. The show dared to explore the darker, less discussed aspects of professional football, touching on issues that weren't typically in the spotlight. It introduced audiences to quarterback Derek McConnell, who bore a striking resemblance to early career Peyton Manning and struggled with a reliance on painkillers to stay on the field, kind of like Brett Favre, and a star running back Leon Taylor caught in the web of a domestic abuse case. These were storylines that pushed the boundaries of sports entertainment, delving into themes that were only beginning to emerge in the broader conversation about the game. It was less than 10 years after OJ's trial, but it was before we had a grasp on CTE and what it was, and it was well before Ray Rice's elevator incident. Still, the show's writers tried to shine a light on the underbelly of football that was mostly only whispered about in public. One of the most poignant and foresightful narratives involved Thad Gerwich, a wide receiver wrestling with his sexuality in a world he felt wasn't ready to accept him. This storyline arrived a full decade before Michael Sam made history as the first openly gay player drafted into the NFL, and before Carl Nassib came out as a member of the Raiders. Of course, this wasn't an insane prediction to make in 2003. It was a matter of when, not if. But even 20 years ago, attitudes were a lot different in this country, and homosexuality in football was very much a taboo. Hell, it still is today. Playmakers wasn't just a dramatic series, it was well-crafted television with strong writing, compelling performances, and authentic football sequences. No small feat in a genre where realism is hard to capture. Even former players like Deion Sanders and Donovan McNabb liked the show. Despite its fictional setting, the series unsurprisingly struck a nerve with the NFL's leadership. Then Commissioner Paul Tagliabue voiced his displeasure, criticizing the show as one-dimensional and trading in racial stereotypes, sentiments he expressed directly to Disney's Michael Eisner. Tagliabue's critique, coming from a sports executive rather than a media critic, seemed oddly misplaced, especially considering the show's critical acclaim and success. It seemed that the only ones offended by the show were the league, probably because a lot of its themes and storylines rang true to them. Critics, on the other hand, hailed Playmakers for its bold storytelling. Rob Owen of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette even named it the best series of 2003, highlighting the irony in the NFL's opposition. He pointed out that while the show might exaggerate certain behaviors, it wasn't far off from the headlines surrounding the sport at the time. It was like Law and Order, but for football. The NFL's concern over the show's impact on its players and image seemed overblown, especially considering the series' entirely fictional context. Carolina Panthers defensive tackle Brentson Buckner initially dismissed the show as hot garbage, but later acknowledged that it captured the reality of life in professional football more accurately than he had expected. His change of heart subtly revealed why the NFL might have been so uneasy about the show. It was too close to the truth for comfort. Despite drawing a dedicated audience of 1.3 million viewers weekly, including a significant and perhaps surprising number of women, a demographic ESPN was keen to attract, Playmakers was unceremoniously canceled after just one season, with ESPN, which had been owned by Disney since 1996, caving to the pressure of the league. The ratings simply didn't matter. It was ESPN's top program, and the NFL pretty much killed it. It would be like HBO axing Game of Thrones after a season, or AMC showing the door to Breaking Bad because the drug dealers got together and said it was too accurate.
Do not sell marijuana to my husband.
Okay. The show never even got a chance to hit its stride. Not only did the NFL effectively pull the plug, but they also buried the show. If you're trying to watch Playmakers in the year 2024, it's not such an easy task. It's not streaming anywhere like the ESPN app or ESPN Plus, but you can always buy the DVDs if you're a troglodyte that owns a DVD player, and you can find 4K rips of the show on YouTube. It's an obstacle course to find the show, and that's probably how the league wants it, if not to have it totally erased from the annals of TV history. I said annals. The deep irony about Playmakers is that even 20 years later, the same storylines are part of the NFL. Domestic violence, perception of sexual orientation, drug use, performance enhancers, players involved in crime, hell, even position battles between younger and older players. None of that has gone away from the league. It just goes to show you that with the NFL, you never want to do the wrong thing at the right time. In the wake of having their hit show canceled, ESPN tried another drama. Tilt debuted in 2005, but it lacked the critical success and cultural impact of Playmakers. It wasn't quite Rounders or Casino Royale, but a good idea nonetheless. But too bad nobody gives a fuck about poker. By mid-2005, ESPN had shifted its focus away from scripted drama and toward the debate-centric programming that would dominate its lineup for years to come. The network was done trying to create art. Instead, created yelling at each other. The NFL too has attempted to become more sanitized. Big hits are being met with yellow flags. Taunting and excessive celebration were policed too heavily, and in some cases still are, and guardian caps are making their way onto the field of play. Hell, even the programming has taken a hit. Hard Knocks director Shannon Furman told media outlet CHGO that the McCaskey family doesn't want profanity on the show. Seriously, fuck the McCaskies. Now, this might seem like a small matter, but it's the difference between reality and fiction. If you're going to tell us or present to an audience that the football players and coaches don't swear, the show might as well be fucking scripted. They claim to give us more access than ever, but at the same time, they're blurring out the rough edges, the hard-nosed truths of football that make it such a unique and unforgiving game. And all of this started with the hit show the NFL didn't even want.
Chambers, turn it off.